Well, Met fans, I guess there's two aspects. There's one, I can't wait to hear all the vitriol that I was promised. If the New York Mets don't make the biggest offer for Jacob deGrom, I'm going to bury them. All right, I'll wait for that. And now, of course, they answer losing deGrom by signing 93-year-old Justin Verlander to a 2-year, $86 million deal, if you're just tuning in, with a third-year vesting option based on innings pitched in year 2. Carlos Baerga, the first to have it last night on his Instagram account, so good job by Carlos. And now here we are. deGrom is gone. Verlander is in. And, oh, by the way, the Jets should have beaten the Minnesota Vikings. The Giants should have beaten the Washington Commanders. Good afternoon, Evan. How are you today, kid?
Anything happen this weekend?
Been an interesting weekend for you, buddy, because I can't wait. I'm going to sit back, put my feet up, because you have told me repeatedly it is inexcusable for the New York Mets not to make the biggest offer to Jacob deGrom. I'll sit back and listen.
They not only didn't make the biggest offer to Jacob deGrom, here's the thing that should piss every Met fan off, even if it doesn't. They offered more money to Justin Verlander. They offered more money to Max Scherzer. They essentially offered all of them the same amount of years. And they offered less to their guy.
Yes, that's true.
Does that not piss one off?
I'm waiting. I'm listening.
Does that not annoy one? Now, we hear the final product. You can't give him 5 years. What are you, crazy? You can't give him a vesting option for a 6th year. What are you, crazy? The Mets weren't even in the same galaxy as what Texas offered.
About $100 million shy.
They weren't even close.
Yep.
They weren't even on the same universe. So, of course, I'm pissed off at ownership. Of course I'm disappointed. Look, did Jake want to come back? Doesn't feel that way, but it doesn't help. And this is the story of his Met career. It's been going on since he got here. Disrespect. It's the way it started. Whether it was you guys disrespecting him, Matt Harvey's our ace. Now Noah Syndergaard's our ace. Let's pay Max Scherzer $42.5 million, but let's not offer Jacob deGrom that. He has been disrespected from the beginning. He was disrespected at the end. I don't think the Mets wanted him back, and that pisses me off.
Well, I think that's the key part of it.
They didn't want him back?
They offered him, apparently, if you believe all the reports, they offered him 3 years, $120. That was their best offer.
Less than Max Scherzer.
Per year, yes.
Less than Max Scherzer.
Yep.
Less than Justin Verlander. Less. That's not deniable. So before we get into this, I can't give him 5 years, would you? They didn't offer him as much as Scherzer and Verlander, who, yes, they're Hall of Famers on ice skates.
Sure.
They have done very little, if anything, for the Mets. In fact, the only thing Max Scherzer did, besides having a very good regular season, was get his ass booed off the mound during a playoff game.
Correct.
So I'm heartbroken. I'm angry. Yes, they've pivoted. Yes, this was the right pivot. I admit that. Yep. And I said that over the weekend, that what I would do now, even though I didn't like it, was to go short-term big money on Verlander. But the bitter taste I have in my mouth, and I don't care if I'm the only Met fan saying this, that's fine, I'll be the one guy, was that ultimately the Mets lost deGrom. They weren't in the same stratosphere as Texas, and they offered him less than Verlander and Scherzer. Yeah. Now, you tell me, because you're sane on this subject, I'm an irrational fan, and I accept that. Yeah. Where am I wrong? Go ahead.
Well, it's not that you're wrong. It's, I guess, the question comes down to you either believe one thing or the other. And I don't think it's right or wrong. It's just a matter of your emotional state and your opinion on what the Mets should have done. Now, you've said from day one, no matter what it is, the New York Mets have to make him the highest offer, even if you recognize it means giving him a quote-unquote bad contract later on based on whatever the total value is because he's your Tom Seaver. Much like you've said about the Yankees. The Yankees cannot get outbid for Aaron Judge. You've consistently said the Mets can't get outbid.
Yes.
So, and you're consistent with that, and you're pissed off about it. For those that aren't pissed off about it, it comes down to even pre-Verlander, because I think you have to look at it in a vacuum for a moment. As you said, they've properly pivoted, and they've replaced Jacob deGrom with this year's Cy Young Award winner. That ain't a bad thing, right? Would you have given him, should the Mets have given him, the contract that the Texas Rangers gave him? And then second to that, would deGrom have signed it? I don't think he would have.
We don't know that, though.
We'll never know.
We'll never know that. And do I believe that maybe Jake wanted out? Sure.
I think, to me,
it's tough not to believe
maybe
that.
Just me. I think it's clearly wanted out.
Well, here's the analogy I'll use. Tell me if it's off. I'm the child, which fits well. Mommy is the Mets. Daddy is the Yankees. Mommy and Daddy didn't want to be married anymore. Okay?
Right.
Daddy wanted to screw around with the new hot Texas Ranger. And Mommy, I think the Mets are still Mommy, they were like, yeah, we're good with you leaving. We'll replace you. So I am the kid of the divorced couple.
I would say this.
Who's upset they couldn't work things out, but ultimately, here's the reality. The Mets didn't want him at that number,
That's
and
obvious.
Jake didn't want us.
I mean, the mere fact that Jacob deGrom, I know this is part of the story, maybe not that important part, but to me it says a lot. The fact that Jacob deGrom and his agent never even said, hey, Mets, just so you know, I got this deal on the table. Do you want to match it or beat it? Like, that's happened a couple times now with guys, and maybe that's not the story.
Because they weren't
to me,
close,
it's part
though,
of the
Craig.
story.
Craig, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
You want to come back to the fan, or maybe you're thinking about coming back to the
Yes.
fan. You're negotiating with the fan, and
Right.
another company just blows you away with the offer.
All right, let's
At
hope
that
so.
point, do you even come back and give the fan a chance to
Yeah,
match?
I mean, yes.
I understand that, but they were so
the fact
far
is, if
off,
they
dude.
don't, you got to do the best. Here's the thing, and people can say whatever they want. It's $100 million difference, and the Mets were never going to offer him what the Rangers offer. That's obvious by what they did offer him, right? To me, it still comes down to if you are blown out of the water, any of us listening right now, you got to do what's good for your family too, right?
Right.
And for yourself. And if there's another company out there, in this case a team, that's willing to give you about $100 million more than the best offer you got, I'm sorry. I'm not even sorry. You're an idiot not to take it.
No, I get you.
You take the money.
I don't blame Jake.
Right.
I think the anger that we may have, and it bothers me a little bit, is him not giving them that final chance
Yeah,
to
and
match.
that to me is part of the story.
But like I said, the Mets was so far off, maybe they viewed it as a waste of time. This situation with the Mets not really wanting him and Jake maybe not really wanting us, it just sucks. That's all it is. Instead of just blaming one side or hating this side, look, I could just tell you this as a diehard fan, and if you don't understand it, you don't understand it. It is what it is. I thought and I had hoped that this day would never happen, where you have a franchise icon bolting to another team.
Sure.
It happened before with Darryl Strawberry. It happened before with Edgardo Alfonso. It happened before with Zach Wheeler. It happened before with Jose Reyes, all on different levels. I understand that. None's exactly the same. I was just hopeful that this would never happen.
Yeah.
And so whether you think it would have been foolish to give him 5 years or not, whether you think he's made of glass now or not, can we all agree on this?
Go ahead.
This sucks. It
Well, but I
sucks that
think
when you
they've
develop
answered
a
pretty
guy,
quickly, though.
I get that.
Yeah.
No, I'm not even talking about that aspect of it,
Okay.
which I admit
Yeah.
was the right move to make. I've got a lot of reasons for it. The fact it ended like this, it sucks. We just can't say that.
Yeah,
if you're
for
a Met
you
fan,
as a guy who's a stand, a self-admitted stand for
even
the
if
guy.
you're not, though, you're a
Well,
Met
but
fan. You don't want a guy spending his whole career with your team?
Well, listen, I guess if someone gave you the choice, if you took everything else out of it, and I said to you, for the next 2 years, who would you rather have, Jacob deGrom or Justin Verlander? And there has to be a recency bias because it doesn't matter what happened 10 years ago for either guy.
I would say DeGrom.
Okay, so period, stop.
Justin Verlander didn't pitch in
So
2020,
in your-
didn't pitch in 2021, and he's 40 years old. Like, if I'm making, and it's a gamble, I admit that. DeGrom's a gamble, Verlander's a gamble, Rodon's a
Yeah,
gamble.
I think they both are.
Basically, everybody's a gamble outside of, I can't believe I'm saying this, your guy, Garrett Cole, who pitches every 5 days.
Yeah.
Every other pitcher's a gamble, right? I'd rather take that gamble on the guy who's 5 years younger and has done it here.
Sure.
Is that really a crazy answer?
I don't think anyone's going to argue that. I think here's the issue. This happened Friday night. So now we're 3 days later. We had a terrible Jet loss, a terrible Giant loss.
Ugh.
And the Mets have already made it right by signing Verlander. So I think part of your frustration, I could be dead wrong here, is that you haven't had a real chance to like go crazy on the radio. All due respect to Rico Bronia and a 10-minute appearance with Joe Beningo on Saturday.
Apparently, people love paying because it was the highest viewed Rico of all
Yeah,
time.
I'm sure it was. And you're top 50 right now in the App Store. So good. Congratulations on
He's
that.
gone!
Yeah.
There's
I think you're like
nothing we
43rd or
can
something.
do.
Yeah. So you've lost your guy.
Who's that lunatic screaming about?
Yeah, you lost your guy.
He's gone!
But
There's nothing we can do!
you've already replaced him.
Yeah.
So anger today feels to me like the fan base has already moved on. And maybe that's not right, but that's the case.
By the way, Craig, you're right. And to a degree, I don't want to say I've moved on, but I also understand that, as that clip says, He's gone and he's not coming back, and there's nothing
right.
I can do.
He's gone. There's nothing we can do.
But my viewpoint was I'm disappointed that they bid more for Verlander and Scherzer. With that said, I wish Jake nothing but the best.
Why?
I really mean that.
Why? Screw him. He's out. Peace out.
Why do I wish him the best?
Yeah, why?
It's a great
First
question.
off, he's going to pitch an anonymity out there. You'll see him because you're a lunatic.
Right.
He's done. He wanted out. He's out. Bye-bye.
Because it's not as easy as flipping a switch and just hating somebody. Luckily, he didn't sign with Atlanta. He didn't sign inside the division. I think your point is great. He's in anonymity, and that makes it easier for me to be okay with him being successful.
You move on from him faster than you think, especially if Verlander pitches well or if we get Kate Upton here for Wag Wednesday.
Let me just make something very clear very quickly
And by the
about
way,
Justin
Tommy,
Verlander.
if you don't deliver on that, you know how that's going to end for you. I'm just keeping it real. She's been in the studio many times with me and Boom. If you don't have her here within 3 months, is that fair?
3 months?
Well, I'm going to give him this month because holidays and
Boy,
whatnot
you
coming
softened up all of a sudden.
Good call. January 15th.
I was going to say the end of the week.
I'm not even sure if he's coming here for the press conference. He's probably doing it at the GM meetings, right?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Here's the deal. I give you one chance to ask me for help. And that offer expires on Thursday. Okay?
Your phone a friend is done on Thursday.
I'm willing to help you up until Thursday at 2:00. If you don't ask for my help by then, you're on your own.
He's gone. There's nothing we can do.
And you have until December 21st to get it done. There you go. Go ahead. Sorry.
I forgot what I was going to say. It wasn't important. Don't worry about it. Welcome to New York, Justin. Good to see you.
Yeah.
And by the way, you're welcome, Yankee fans, because I've heard from many a friend who's a Yankee fan celebrating that the guy they could not beat,
Justin Verlander,
the guy they could not get past in the postseason, whether it was in Detroit, whether it's in Houston, is now in the National League. And here's good news. If you have to get past him again, it'd be in a World Series, and we know he sucks in the World Series.
So we're all good there. That's right.
So
by the
Yankee
way,
fans, you're welcome.
this was a good day for Yankee fans. Number one, Verlander's not in the American League. Number two, the Mets lost to deGrom, so they're going to keep their mouth shut when you lose Aaron Judge. Or won't they? I guess it depends on the deal, right?
That's a tough one.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the deal. You think he gets signed this week?
I think he's going to sign this week, and I wonder if Yankee fans will stab him in the back as quickly as Met fans did with Jake.
I would say probably not because of the year he's coming off. Don't forget at the
Disagree.
end.
I'll tell you why. Let me just answer that.
Go ahead.
The easy rip on Jake is he's glass and he never pitches. It's a great talking point, right?
No, I think just to stop for a second there.
Yeah.
I think based on what we heard this past year that we never heard before, more after the Oakland game as opposed to the series against Atlanta, people started turning on Jacob.
They turned on him, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think the turn on Judge will be he's a postseason choker. That's the talking point. Like SNY must have released a memo. You embarrassed yourself, by the way. Yeah,
Who's that,
SNY's
SNY
coverage of the deGrom stuff just made me
From what standpoint?
embarrassed. Where do I start?
Go ahead.
You have one guy actually going on TV saying, boy, it makes me look at Jake differently. He's all about the money. Can you believe he went to a team that only won 68 games? Meanwhile, a year ago, that's the only reason the Mets got Max Scherzer, because they blew him away.
Right.
I got one guy saying that's a blessing in disguise. This is great news. If you're a Met fan, you should be happy. So if Yes Network follows the SNY script of let's just have all our reporters be a bunch of shills for the franchise, here's what Yes would say. Hey, look, he's terrible in the postseason. It's just terrible.
Can't count on him.
Can't count on him.
Yeah.
He's unreliable. Oh, by the way, up until this year, he's never healthy. He's a walking injury.
Never been to a World Series.
Never been to a World Series. This is a blessing in disguise that we didn't give him a 9-year contract.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see if the Yes Network handles it the same way
It's
SNY
interesting.
did.
The difference, though, is that the Yankees own a piece of Yes. The Mets don't own SNY anymore.
Yeah.
Now, the Wilpons still own it, and a whole bunch of credit.
I give Big Mac a lot of credit. He had a great line. I want to cite you on this one. Big Mac says, watching SNY, I figured Gary Cohen was going to call in and say Jacob deGrom was a net negative. It's a great line, and it perfectly encompasses the embarrassment that was their coverage that night.
Really? Not a single person said bad job on the Mets?
Do they need? Did I have to call in to give one dissenting voice? Like, I get it. I'm in the minority. I accept that. I know there's a lot of Met fans who are like, oh, good riddance. He's a schmuck. Goodbye. But not one dissenting voice. Everyone has to celebrate that deGrom is gone.
And by the way, that's before you knew you were getting Verlander, too.
Right.
Like, it's one thing to come out today and say, you know what, I'm good with it. See you later, Jacob. I got Ben. Or Justin, rather. Pardon me, right?
Ben?
Well, he's on my mind anyway.
He better not play like Ben.
But you follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like they were supportive, I guess, of the contract he signed with the Mets not signing him before they knew they were getting Justin Verlander.
Yeah.
That's weird to me. At least for not one person. I didn't see any of the coverage, so I'll take your word for it. But it seems like there was a company mantra.
Oh, it was awful.
Right?
Is either there was a company mantra or everyone just coincidentally had the same asinine opinion.
Yeah, but I don't think, to be fair to SNY, I don't think they told their guys what to say or think.
No, you know what? I think you're right. I think everyone just probably hears the same rumblings from the same sources.
Yeah.
So they all want to believe the same thing. I got John Heyman, who I thought wrote the most embarrassing article he's ever written, and I like John. I really do. When John says Met fans should rejoice that he left. You know what?
How can you say that?
You don't get it then.
Why were they rejoicing?
Because it was such an awful contract he signed in Texas.
Oh, because the money.
And because Jacob deGrom, obviously hated wearing masks, probably didn't get vaccinated. That's all been implied now.
Right.
So hated New York politics. So, good riddance. He can go F himself. I'm not going to believe the crap that's put out there when a guy leaves. That's the Red Sox mantra. That's what they do.
Yeah.
When they lose somebody, let's rip them on the way out. And that's what I basically heard for 48 hours. But here's the truth. He's gone. He's not coming back. I wish him all the best. I do believe his number should be retired a decade and a half from now. That's a discussion for another day. But let's hope I'm wrong, and let's hope Justin Verlander repeats as Cy Young Award winner. And by the way, Max, a little memo to Max Scherzer. Guess who should start opening day? Not your ass, because you got booed off the mound in the postseason. So, Justin, welcome to New York. You get the baseball on opening day. Congrats, pal. That's
I
my
wonder if
opinion.
that's a big deal between those two guys. You think at this point either one of them cares? 40 years old, making $40 million a year.
Here's what they may care about. Verlander and Scherzer are separated by 5 strikeouts on the all-time strikeout
Oh, is that right?
list.
Okay.
So as this season goes on, they're going to bump each other.
Well, that'd be a good little self-competition. I like it. All right. From there, of course, you had the Jets lost to the Minnesota Vikings. And here's what we learned. The only force more powerful in the universe than the Illuminati is the impotence of the Jets offense. Because God knows they had enough opportunities to win that game. They should have won that game. Meanwhile, the New York Giants, same deal. Had to win that game, should have won that game, and didn't. So it was a bad weekend all around for all of us.
Yeah, the Giants tied, which standings-wise you could say, all right, it kind of just puts the pressure on Week 15. But when you look at the 4 things that happened that directly led to losing, you can't sleep at night if you're Brian Dable or you're a Giant fan.
Well, there's one in particular I just want to say.
Which one? Because there's like 4 of them.
There's one in particular that really pisses me off.
Go.
The referee screwed the Giants on the last 2 plays of the game. When they connected James to get him into field goal territory, the referee misspotted the ball conservatively by 3 or 4 yards.
How does that happen, by the way?
And then when Danny Jones snapped the ball, the Redskins are offsides.
Yeah, it looked that way.
And they didn't call it.
It looked that way.
And those 5 yards are the difference between that kick being in and not in.
All fair.
That was brutal.
All fair, you're right. But if John Feliciano isn't called for a taunting penalty when they should have been set up at the Washington 35 with 6 minutes to go, if he's not called for that penalty, the Giants probably kick a field goal,
I thought
make
that
it
was
a
a bad
2-score
call,
game.
too, to be honest.
But they still called it.
They did.
Look, taunting penalties are tough because it's not as exact
Now,
as...
I'm not even saying I buy the excuse afterwards that he was actually pumping up his own guy.
Yeah, Darius Slayton, I think.
Okay, fine. But the referees had a hand in their loss.
But you can't even put yourself in a position to have that happen. That's number one. Number two, 4th and 4 from their own 27-yard line. You got Ojulari chasing Heineke around. Make a play.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
instead they convert.
Well, that was a great pass by
On
Heineke.
the Dotson touchdown that tied the game, you had 2 guys, one of which no one ever heard of until this Sunday, Gilbert. I still don't know who he is. Missing tackles. You had 2 missed tackles.
Come on, the guy made a spin move for the ages.
No. They missed the tackle.
He hit the B button. Boop.
Hit the B button. They missed tackles. And then maybe the biggest of them all, Darius Slayton. Darius, you have to catch that ball on 1st down. The Giants drew up an aggressive play after Washington tied the game.
Yep.
Daniel makes the throw, and Darius, you have to make that play. Sure. That was an Evan Ingram kind of play by Darius Slayton. If any of those four
The Giants
things,
win the game.
they
100%.
win the game.
Yep.
That's why not all ties are created equal. Sometimes it's how you get there.
There's a bad tie.
That's a lost tie.
Yeah, and listen, there's, like you said, there's 3 or 4 different people you can blame and plays you can look at. I give the Giants credit. They fought back. They put themselves in a little hole early. They fought back. They get the credit for that. Then they blew a lead in the fourth quarter, but they had ample opportunity to win that game.
And one other thing, welcome to New York, Coach, because Brian Daboll, for the very first time, got to hear it legitimately about some of the play call decisions.
Well, the
And he
timeout, too.
That he offered no answers after the game, other than which I appreciate. Look, it's all on me.
Yeah.
I have the right to overrule things.
He's got some goodwill here, but I'm with you.
He's got goodwill.
Yeah.
And look, we can disagree about play calls. Doesn't make him an idiot. I'm just saying it was the first time this year as head coach where I think you had legitimate questions about some of the decisions
I'll
they made.
say this.
That's
I give
all.
him credit because I thought it was the right thing to do to punt there with a minute 30, whatever it was, 20 to go.
I agree.
I thought that, 4th and 4 at about the 45-yard line. I know a lot of people are saying you got to go for it.
No.
It played exactly how he wanted it to. So I thought that was the right decision.
I completely agree with you because at that point, you cannot lose the game.
Right.
You punt it, you're ensuring, barring something crazy, that the worst-case scenario is you tie.
Yep.
The problem was what happened on the play before. You have a 3rd and 2, and you've got Richie James, Saquon Barkley, and Daniel Jones all colliding with each other.
It was funny, though.
What the hell was that?
Unless you're a Giants fan.
I'm glad you found it funny, but
I'm
what
not
was
a Giants fan. I mean, I wanted them to win, but it was pretty funny.
What the hell was that?
Keystone Cops.
And that changes everything because remember this, Craig. It's 3rd and a short 2 on that play. They lost a yard on that. Even if they get nothing and it's 4th and 2, they still probably punt.
I think they punt.
But maybe they decide to go for it.
I
maybe.
think 4th and 1 or 4th and inches, maybe because Danny's a big guy. But outside of that, I think they were punting the whole way. And I think it was the right call. And obviously, it went exactly how they hoped it went.
Yeah, I think that what this tie does from a standings perspective is it kind of punts things to 2 weeks from now. That game in Washington now
That's a playoff
becomes essentially, yes, a playoff game. That's why the NFL announced not too long ago they're flexing that crap into Sunday night.
Oh, isn't that nice? The Giants get flexed, the Jets don't. Oh, that's the way it goes. And by the way, memo to Braxton Berrios, if we're going to put you on the field for some reason on goal line offense, can you catch the ball and it hits you in the chest?
Got to make that play, bro.
Like, the pass was behind you.
No.
You're an NFL wide receiver. You have to catch that ball, period, stop.
You got to make that
and
play.
And I'll give you one better. Number 2, for all the accolades that Michael White has gotten, and for good reason. On the 4th down play, the last play of the game that gets intercepted by the Vikings, he's got Elijah Moore against the linebacker wide open for the game-winning touchdown and never saw him. We got to be better than that.
I also didn't love the play calling because when you
on
got
1st and goal from the 5, go.
Well, it was 1st and goal from the 5.
They get 3.
hand it off to Bam Knight. He gets 4. They're at the 1-yard line.
Right.
You have 2nd and goal from the 1. We all know this is 4-down territory because at 27-22, you're certainly not kicking a field goal. I'd run the football with Zonovan Knight 3 more times.
I agree.
They ran it 1 more time. He got stuffed. Now it's 3rd and goal from the 1. And I think instead that's when they called the fade,
They
right?
threw the fade to Garrett, and he slipped at the line of scrimmage and didn't get open.
And then obviously Berrios with the drop and 4th and goal from the 1.
Yep.
But you know what? Yeah, they stopped him. They stopped Bam Knight once. I'd make him do it again.
But I would just run the ball 4 straight times. Like, that defense is not stopping you on 4 straight downs. They're not.
And
the only reason they stopped him on 2nd down, I think it was Harrison Mills, if I'm not mistaken.
Harrison Smith.
Smith, excuse me. He jumped the gap and made a great play.
He made a great play.
He's not doing that again on 3rd down.
And look, that's the drive and the play we're going to think about. But go back earlier in this game. They had so many freaking opportunities to punch it in and get 6.
6 red zone appearances, 1 touchdown.
It's weird. So this game ends. I'm disgusted. I think we all are as Jet fans. We're all thinking about the moments that should have been, could have been. The defense no-showed early. The defense had that one awful drive in the second half. All the little things that could have led to a victory. But there was one part of me that I felt decent about. They kept fighting. They were never dead in this game. They were never out of this game, even though at 17-3, 20-3, it felt like they were, but they were never dead. Even when they made it 20-15 and the defense goes out and lets the Vikings score in like 6 plays.
Right.
I mean, they march down the field. DJ Reed gets beat by Jefferson at the end. Look what they respond immediately.
Yep.
That's when Zonovan Knight had the 50-yard run. So I'm pissed they lost. It's a huge missed
Look,
opportunity.
if Garrett Wilson doesn't step out of bounds by an inch and a half, they win the game. If Braxton Berrios catches the ball, they win the game.
Also, Mike White missed an open Garrett
Mike
Wilson
White,
on
that's
that
right.
drive.
Yep. I mean, so there are so many opportunities to win that game, and I guess that's the next step in their evolution of being a legitimate Super Bowl contender, is not missing all those opportunities because there are too many. That game was sitting there. The Vikings were begging the Jets to win that game.
Listen, man, you can't get in the red zone as often as you did and not score. You can't fail as often on third down, and you can't allow the Vikings to succeed as often as they did on third down.
No, especially in the first half. They couldn't get off the field at all. It was embarrassing. Anyway, we got lots to do. Jets, Giants, and, of course, the Mets take center stage today as they've agreed to a 2-year deal with an option, a vesting option, for a third year, but 2 years, $86 million. Justin Verlander is now a Met. Your call's coming up right after this.